Something very concerning is happening here in Israel. President Donald Trump is making plans for the future of Gaza right now, and let's just say it's very troubling. He's inviting many countries to sit on his prestigious Board of Peace that are puzzling, to say the least, but he's also inviting some countries that are downright concerning. Also, there's been massive fighting happening in Syria this past week, where on the surface it seems like the US has essentially abandoned the Kurds. Let's get into it. Before I get into what's happening with the Gaza Peace Board, we have a really cool new tactical t-shirt design that we just dropped. You can pre-order your own right now by clicking the link in the description below. Guys, while I was researching this show, a crazy, very tragic report came out that 55 children, including 2 babies who are in critical condition, were injured in some kind of heating incident at a daycare in Jerusalem. As of the time of recording, it might have changed by the time you're watching this. It was reported that 2 toddlers had been pronounced dead. Really awful, terrible, tragic stuff. United Hatzalah, which is an Israeli volunteer-based emergency medical organization, is saying that this was an unlicensed daycare facility and that the deaths were caused by carbon monoxide poisoning. Not really sure exactly what happened at this point. There's conflicting reports coming out. There's not very many details out at this point. However, 3 of the caregivers who worked at the daycare were arrested. Guys, pray for everyone involved in this terrible incident. So President Trump's Board of Peace has been grabbing a lot of attention in the news lately. Basically, it's a committee that will sort of oversee Gaza now that the war is over, with some of the countries who are part of this Board of Peace even having troops on the ground in Gaza to keep the peace. One of those countries being Turkey. Yes, Turkey. Even though Israel said that Turkey having troops on the ground would be a hard line for them. Also, they just announced that President Trump sent a letter inviting the Turkish president to not only be a member of the Board of Peace, but also to be a founding member of the Gaza Peace Council. Argentina was the first country to publicly share President Trump's invitation to the Board of Peace. 50 other nations have been invited, including a bunch of European nations and Canada and Qatar, Turkey, Jordan, and Pakistan, which is kind of crazy. After the invitation to Pakistan, Pakistan's prime minister said this, quote, "Pakistan will remain engaged with international efforts for peace and security in Gaza, leading to a lasting solution to the Palestine issue in accordance with United Nations resolutions." Pakistan doesn't even have diplomatic relations with Israel, and they've been very vocal in their condemnation of what they call Israel's genocide in Gaza. And now a report came out, and this is wild, guys, that Trump has invited Russian President Vladimir Putin to be a part of this Board of Peace as well, which seems absolutely insane to me, guys. I don't really know what's going on with this. That's the Gaza Peace Board, which is mostly symbolic. However, Turkey, as well as Qatar, have been invited to sit on the more consequential Gaza Executive Board. It's kind of confusing. The inclusion of both of these countries, which is more consequential, was met with staunch opposition from Israel, as to be expected, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office even saying Saturday that the board's makeup, quote, was not coordinated with Israel and contradicts its policy. After Netanyahu's statement, an unnamed senior American official was quoted by Axios saying this, quote, "This is our show, not his show, and if he wants us to deal with Gaza, it will have to be our way." Guys, to be honest, I'm kind of concerned about this. From the outside, we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, what's exactly happening, but from the outside, it looks like Netanyahu is being pushed out of the way, and many of even Israel's enemies are being invited to govern over Gaza the day after the war. And things aren't looking much better on Israel's northern border either. There's been massive fighting going on in Syria this past week. tensions have been building for quite some time between Syrian government forces and the US-backed Kurds, also known as the Syrian Democratic Forces, the SDF. And those tensions finally boiled over this last week when the US did a precision strike on several ISIS targets in central Syria in response to a deadly ambush from ISIS the previous month that had actually killed American personnel. Syrian government forces, I think, kind of took advantage of the chaos that was created by the attack to advance on Kurdish forces and take over positions east of Aleppo. They continued advancing and taking over positions, not really caring who was in their path, even arresting members of the Alawite community and kidnapping Kurdish women. The SDF kept withdrawing and government forces marched on, capturing key infrastructure like oil fields and dams in the Raqqa province. Allied Arab tribes entered Raqqa, accelerating the offensive. The SDF declared full mobilization, calling it an existential war. And then, out of nowhere, Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara issued a decree recognizing Kurdish cultural rights and designating Kurdish as a national language, obviously trying to make peace with the Kurds while also taking over all of their land at the same time. Syrian forces then seized Tabqa, its airport, and the Euphrates Dam, along with major oil and gas fields in eastern Syria. Heavy fighting erupted near Raqqa, with government troops continuing to advance. SDF commander Mazloum Abdi urged forceful US intervention because it seemed like the US had completely forgotten about the Kurds. All of this comes right after Bibi Netanyahu just cut a deal with Syria, which seemed like kind of weird timing if you ask me. It seems like Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara is riding a very fine line. He's trying to seize power of the entirety of Syria while also, saving face with the US. And that's probably why he recognized Kurdish culture and Kurdish as a national language. So all of that led up to yesterday, where a 14-point ceasefire was signed between the Syrian government, led by Shara, and the Kurds, that basically completely dismantles the Syrian Democratic Forces, and the Syrian government gets all of the lands that they took over. The SDF, which is predominantly Kurdish with around 100,000 fighters, will dissolve as an independent entity. Its personnel must integrate individually into Syria's defense and interior ministries after security vetting rather than as units. So, not really a great ceasefire for the Kurds. SDF leader Mazloum Abdi said this, quote, "The war was imposed on us, planned by many sides. We withdrew from Deir ez-Zor and Raqqa to halt bloodshed, prevent civil war, and protect our people's gains and identity. We will defend those achievements with all our strength. This is a long struggle, and we will prevail." They also have to hand over all of their ISIS detention facilities, holding thousands of fighters and their families, to the government, which of course raises risks of mismanagement or even releasing terrorists, potentially fueling jihadist resurgence in Kurdish areas. This ceasefire, it may prevent further immediate violence, but it also very likely exposes the Kurdish communities to regime reprisals, arrests, and displacement. The US, which at least used to back the SDF, welcomed the deal, but right now I would imagine they're rethinking their counter-ISIS strategy as the SDF's role diminishes. I don't know about you guys, but all of this seems kind of crazy, confusing at the same time. Like, why has the Syrian government suddenly taken over entire regions of Syria that have been under Kurdish rule for over a decade? And the bigger question is, I guess, why didn't the US do anything more than just to warn Syrian forces to halt their advances? Guys, I don't know the answers to this. All of this is up in the air, but one thing we know for sure is that God's got it all under control. No matter what happens, Israel will win in the end. It will be the best for Israel. That's it for today, guys. Make sure and pre-order our new t-shirt that's dropping soon. Just click the link in the description below. As always, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.